Hello, this is Sarah Brash. Welcome back to my channel. So this video is going to be about Jussie Smollett, and what I want to talk about is, so most people know, I'm sure most people or everyone who is watching this video already knows that this past week Jussie Smollett was convicted. He was found guilty of having perpetrated a living while black hate crime hoax in Chicago. I'm sure everyone already knows the story. It was a ridiculous hate crime hoax. And so what I specifically want to talk about is the fact that if Jussie Smollett is guilty of perpetrating a living while black hate crime hoax, then there are a lot of other people who should have been on trial with Jussie Smollett, who are also guilty of either perpetrating or pushing or perpetuating living while black race and hate crime hoaxes that, in my opinion, were just as obvious as what Jussie Smollett did. Just as obvious. So, and what I want to make clear is that the people who have done this, the fake news press, the black trauma moral outrage industry, they have pushed obvious living while black race and hate crime hoaxes, including, of course, napping while black at Yale, which I think was just like painfully obvious that this was a hate crime hoax. And if you are actually claiming, I don't believe that anyone ever actually believed it. I honestly don't believe that anyone is that stupid. But if you are still right now in December 2021 claiming that you actually fell for what should have been a painfully and perfectly obvious hate crime hoax, napping while black at Yale, I don't believe you. But if we just want to take you at face value, then you're an idiot. You're an idiot. Okay? Like, I'm doing you a favor by assuming that you're just evil and that you did this for money. But what I want to make clear is that everyone who has been pushing, perpetuating, even perpetrated, had a hand in the living while black race and hate crime hoaxes, they are evil. They do not care about racism. They do not care about police brutality. They do not care about black people. They care about making black trauma moral outrage industry money. That's what they care about. They destroyed the living while black movement. They destroyed the living while black movement. And they did this by turning it into a race hoax and a blood sport. And they particularly targeted and demonized vulnerable white women, those with mental health disabilities, those without resources to defend themselves and fight back. And they did this to smear Trump also, but they mostly just did it for black trauma moral outrage industry, money and gain. And they did it, and they even exploited the killings and shootings, including the police killings and shootings of black men and boys. They are still exploiting. USA Today and Richard Painter both tried to lynch me on Thanksgiving. They exploited the murder of Ahmaud Arbery to make black trauma moral outrage industry money. They don't care that they're helping to destroy the living while black movement by turning it into a race hoax, by pushing the obvious napping while black hate crime hoax at Yale. They don't care if they get innocent people killed and destroy innocent lives and careers and families, including the life of an innocent Yale PhD candidate and lifelong civil rights attorney. They don't care. They don't care about racism. They don't care about black people. They don't care about police brutality. The USA Today's, the fake news press, the New York Times, Jamel Bowie, the Richard Painters, the Roxane Gays, the Ijeoma Oluos, the Joy Reids of MSNBC, the Don Lemons of CNN, none of them care. The ACLU president Deborah Archer couldn't care less about racism or black people or police brutality. What she cares about is making black trauma moral outrage industry money. And the very first thing she thought was the most important thing she needed to do as the brand new president of the ACLU was exploit the killings and shootings, including police killings and shootings of black men and boys, to turn the Living While Black movement into a race hoax and blood sport. And she was trying to drive me to suicide to cover up the ACLU's now more than 3.5-year-old campaign to destroy my life, to drive me to suicide. The ACLU played a major role in the Living or Not Being While Black hate crime hoax at Yale. And what I want to point out is that these charlatans and frauds, black trauma moral outrage industry charlatans and frauds, should have been on trial alongside Jussie Smollett. Deborah Archer, president of the ACLU, is guilty of pushing Living While Black race and hate crime hoaxes, just as guilty as Jussie Smollett. The appeal, the now defunct, thankfully defunct, the appeal, synonymous with Twitter race hustler Sean Cain, the appeal and its former members, including the appeal president Josie Duffy Rice, attorney Rebecca Kavanaugh, Tennille, they all had a hand in the global vilification and defamation campaign, which almost got me, an innocent, killed after the Living or Not Being While Black hate crime hoax at Yale. They are all just as bad as Jussie Smollett. Richard Painter is just as bad as Jussie Smollett. USA Today is just as bad as Jussie Smollett. Jamel Bowie is just as bad as Jussie Smollett. Roxane Gay is just as bad as Jussie Smollett. Ijeoma Oluo is just as bad as Jussie Smollett. They all should have been on trial alongside Jussie Smollett. And I could just go on and on. The women of The View, CNN, MSNBC, NPR, ABC, NBC News. NBC News actually partially blamed me for the shooting of Stephanie Washington in April 2019 in Hamden near Yale University I believe it was by a Hamden police officer, and I believe there was also a Yale University police officer who shot his gun. NBC News partially blamed me for that in their news coverage of this shooting that happened in April 2019 when I was on the other side of the country. NBC News is just as bad as Jussie Smollett. And they destroyed the Living While Black movement, and they are charlatans and frauds. And all they care about is black trauma, moral outrage industry dollars and gain. They don't care. They are all Twitter race hustlers now, just like Sean Cain. And Sean Cain played a major role in the Living or Not Being While Black hate crime hoax at Yale. And I'm going to do a whole separate video about how the appeal is dead and the appeal needs to remain dead. Okay, I don't want this video to get too much longer, but that's the point I wanted to make. There are so many people who should have been on trial for perpetuating and pushing and perpetrating Living While Black race and hate crime hoaxes during the past 3 or 4 years. And they did it for money, and they got innocent people killed. They drove innocent people to suicide. They destroyed innocent lives. And I don't know what to do to make them stop. I don't know what to do to stop woke KKK cancel culture. I don't know what to do to stop trial by Twitter without due process. It's fast, easy, and cheap money. And it's why we have to revisit New York Times v. Sullivan. And I'm going to stop there. I have all my fundraising links below. Please support me. Please support me so we can end cancel culture and stop the fake news press and the black trauma moral outrage industry from destroying any other innocent lives. I love you all so much. I'll talk to you soon.